The massive Imperial ship emerged from hyperspace just beyond Mars' orbit, its golden hull reflecting the distant sunlight. Inside the United Earth Defense Force headquarters in Geneva, screens lit up with warnings as sensors detected the unknown vessel. Admiral James Stone stood at the command center's main window, his weathered face reflecting decades of military service. He watched the live feed of the Imperial ship with keen interest, noting its lack of visible weapons, something that made him more, not less, nervous. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," reported Lieutenant Anna Baker, her fingers dancing across the holographic display. "The message is in perfect English." Stone raised an eyebrow. "Let's hear it." The message played through the command center speakers. "To the primitive species of Sol 3, designated Earth, this is Ambassador Gray of the Galactic Empire. Your world has been chosen for integration into our magnificent civilization. Prepare to receive our delegation." The room fell silent. Stone exchanged glances with General Thomas Wright, who stood nearby reviewing tactical displays. "Primitive," Wright muttered, shaking his head. "We've had bases on Mars for 30 years and Europa for 10. Stone pressed a button on his console. "This is Admiral James Stone of the United Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact. However, we request you maintain your current position until proper diplomatic protocols are established." The response came quickly, tinged with amusement. "Protocols? My dear Admiral, you misunderstand. We are not requesting permission. We are informing you of your good fortune." Before Stone could respond, 3 smaller ships detached from the Imperial vessel and headed toward Earth. His hand hovered over the defense alert button, but he waited. First contact was too important to risk a misunderstanding. The Imperial shuttles landed precisely on the designated diplomatic landing pad outside the Geneva complex. Stone and a small delegation walked out to meet them, flanked by security forces who carried their weapons pointed downward, present but not threatening. Ambassador Gray emerged first. He stood 7 feet tall, with silvery skin and eyes that seemed to change color in the sunlight. His ornate robes sparkled with embedded crystals that Stone suspected were more than just decoration. "Fascinating," Gray said, looking around. "You've managed to create quite impressive structures for your technological level." He gestured at the defense headquarters. "Though why you waste resources on military installations is beyond me. The Empire brings peace to all its subjects." Stone kept his expression neutral. "Ambassador, I notice your ships carry no point defense systems. That seems unusual." Gray laughed, the sound like tinkling crystal. "Why would we need them? The Empire has known no war for 10,000 years. Our mere presence ends conflict." As they walked toward the conference room, Stone noticed Gray's eyes widening at the sight of the military hardware on display. The ambassador paused in front of a historical display showing Earth's military history. "What are these images?" Gray asked, studying a photograph of tanks in battle. "Our history," Stone replied simply. "Humanity has fought many wars. It's shaped who we are, how we think, and why we advance technologically." Gray waved his hand dismissively. "Primitive conflicts over resources, no doubt. Once you join the Empire, such things will be unnecessary. Your species will be uplifted, taught to appreciate peace and culture." Stone stopped walking. "Ambassador, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. Earth isn't seeking to be uplifted. We're willing to establish diplomatic relations as equals, but we won't be subjugated." "Equals?" Gray's laugh was less musical this time. "My dear Admiral, you don't seem to understand. Your entire military force couldn't scratch the paint on one of our ships. The Empire spans 10,000 worlds. We are being generous by offering you membership rather than simply taking what we want." Stone's voice remained calm, but his eyes hardened. "Ambassador, I strongly suggest you research humanity's history of warfare before making threats. We're happy to share cultural and technological knowledge, but if you're planning military action..." He paused meaningfully. You should know that humans have never lost a war against a technologically superior force. Gray's color-shifting eyes locked onto Stone's. Was that a threat, Admiral? No, Ambassador, Stone replied quietly. That was a warning. As they entered the conference room, Stone noticed Captain Mary Walsh's subtle hand signal from across the room. Their initial scans of the Imperial ships were complete. He nodded slightly, acknowledging the message. Soon, they would know exactly what humanity was facing, and whether they needed to show the Empire why picking a fight with humans was a terrible mistake. Captain Mary Walsh stood in the Luna Base observation deck, studying the holographic display of the Imperial ships. After 20 years in space warfare tactics, something about their design bothered her deeply. Run the scan again, she ordered, watching as the computer mapped every inch of the Imperial vessels. Focus on their defensive systems. The results made her smile. She quickly sent a message to Admiral Stone back on Earth. They're not as strong as they think. In the Geneva conference room, Stone received the message during Ambassador Gray's long speech about Imperial prosperity. He glanced at the data while pretending to take notes on his tablet. The Empire's ships had no antimatter containment fields, no quantum shields, not even basic nano-repair systems. Ambassador, Stone interrupted politely. Would you like to see some of humanity's cultural achievements? Gray paused, clearly annoyed at the interruption. If you insist, though I doubt they compare to Imperial art forms. Stone nodded to Lieutenant Baker, who dimmed the lights. The wall screen came to life, showing footage from World War II. Tanks rolled across battlefields, planes dropped bombs, and ships exchanged fire across vast oceans. What primitive entertainment, Gray said, looking bored. Though the special effects are surprisingly good for your technology level. These aren't special effects, Ambassador, Stone replied quietly. This is historical footage. Real battles, real weapons from over 200 years ago. Gray's color-shifting eyes flickered rapidly. Impossible. No species would survive such destruction. Stone changed the footage to modern warfare exercises. Sleek machines moved with impossible speed, energy weapons flashed, and swarms of combat drones filled the sky. This is what we do for practice now, Stone explained. Humanity has spent centuries perfecting the art of war. Not because we want to, but because we had to. Are you trying to intimidate the Empire? Gray stood up, his robes shimmering with barely contained anger. Your weapons are nothing compared to Imperial technology. At that moment, Captain Walsh's voice came through Stone's earpiece. Admiral, their shields can't stop our basic railguns, let alone the plasma cannons. Their weapons are just advanced fireworks compared to ours. Stone looked directly at Gray. Ambassador, I'm trying to prevent a mistake. You see us as primitive because we haven't spread across the galaxy. But ask yourself, what kind of weapons would a species develop after fighting itself for thousands of years? Gray's laughter filled the room. The Empire's ships are invincible. We have technology you can't even understand. Like your gravity drives, Stone asked casually. The ones that create a localized field to reduce mass. We developed those a century ago. Discovered their weapons' potential by accident. For the first time, uncertainty crossed Gray's face. How do you know about our drive systems? The same way we know your shields can't handle kinetic impacts over a certain speed. The same way we know your ships have no defense against cyber warfare. Stone leaned forward. We know because we've already analyzed every inch of your vessels. Gray's silver skin paled slightly. That's impossible. Our systems are protected by 23rd century encryption. Stone shook his head. We broke that level of security 50 years ago. Ambassador, I'm trying to save lives here. Your empire has never faced a species that developed through constant warfare. You don't understand what you're walking into. Gray stood up abruptly. The Empire does not take threats from primitives seriously. You have 48 hours to surrender, or we will demonstrate true power. As the ambassador stormed out, General Wright moved next to Stone. Think they'll listen? Stone watched the Imperial delegation leave. No, they can't imagine that a younger species could be more advanced in warfare. Their peace made them stagnant. Should we show them our real weapons? Wright asked. Stone shook his head. Not yet. Let's hope they take our warning seriously. He turned to his tablet, sending a message to all Earth Defense Forces. Begin Operation Lighthouse. If they want to learn about human warfare, we'll give them a lesson they'll never forget. Up in Luna Base, Captain Walsh watched the Imperial ships through the observation window. Poor bastards, she muttered. We tried to warn them to run. The Luna Command Center buzzed with activity as military leaders from around Earth gathered in its massive underground chamber. 300 feet beneath the moon's surface, the center was invisible to Imperial scans. Their ships continued to orbit Earth, unaware of humanity's largest military installation right under their sensors. Admiral Stone stood at the central holotable, watching as red dots representing Imperial ships moved in predictable patterns. General Wright entered the room, carrying fresh reports from Earth's defense networks. They still haven't detected our subsurface bases, Wright said, placing his tablet on the table. Their scanning technology is like something from our history books. Stone nodded. They rely too much on their advanced materials, never developed the need for stealth or deep scanning. He turned to the room full of military commanders. Ladies and gentlemen, Operation Lighthouse is now active. Status reports. A holographic screen lit up, showing Captain Walsh from the Weapon Control Center. All automated defense platforms are armed and hidden. We have 5,000 satellites disguised as space debris, each carrying enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Ground forces are ready, reported Colonel Jackson from his Australian command post. Our underground bases are fully stocked. The nanite production facilities are running at full capacity. Stone turned to the AI specialist, Dr. Miller, who managed Earth's defense artificial intelligence. How's Guardian responding to the situation? The scientist adjusted his glasses. The AI has run 10 million combat simulations. It predicts a 99.9% chance of victory, even if the Empire brings their entire local fleet. Their technology is advanced, but their combat doctrine is practically non-existent. They've never needed one, Wright added. Think about it. They've only ever fought primitive species or ones that willingly joined them. They don't know what real war looks like. Stone walked around the holotable, studying the defensive positions they'd prepared. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for alien contact, always assuming the worst. Now those preparations would prove their worth. Admiral, Walsh's voice came through again. We've finished analyzing their communication systems. They don't use quantum entanglement. All their transmissions can be intercepted and decoded. Can we jam them? Stone asked. Better, Walsh smiled. We can feed them false data. They won't even know their sensors are lying to them until it's too late. Dr. Miller raised his hand. Guardian has already infiltrated their computer systems. They use linear programming, no AI protection at all. We could shut down their ships right now if we wanted to. Stone shook his head. No, we wait. Let them make the first move. Humanity has never started a war, but we've never lost one either. The room fell quiet as a new alert flashed across the main screen. The Imperial ships were moving into attack formation. They're right on schedule, Wright said, checking his watch. Still 18 hours before their deadline. They think they're being clever, Stone replied. Attacking early to catch us off guard. He turned to the assembled leaders. Are the civilian shelters ready? Colonel Jackson nodded. All population centers have been evacuated to the underground arcologies. Space elevators are running at maximum capacity, moving non-essential personnel to the Mars and Europa colonies. Medical stations, fully staffed and prepared, Dr. Miller reported. Though given the Empire's weapon capabilities, we probably won't need them. Stone looked at each person in the room. Remember, our goal isn't to destroy them. We just need to show them why starting a war with humanity is a bad idea. Let them throw their first punch, then hit back just hard enough to make them understand. And if they don't understand, Wright asked, then we show them why humans are the only species that turned warfare into a science. Stone straightened his uniform. Battle stations, everyone. Let's give them a demonstration they'll never forget. As the commanders moved to their posts, Stone watched the Imperial ships on the main display. They'd really had no idea what they were about to face. Humanity had spent thousands of years learning the art of war, perfecting it, turning it into a precise and terrible science. The Empire was about to learn why every human child knew the old saying, God made men, but war made them gods. The Imperial fleet appeared from hyperspace like golden stars emerging from darkness. 50 massive warships, each larger than humanity's biggest space station, moved into attack formation around Earth. In the Luna Command Center, Admiral Stone watched calmly as the enemy ships positioned themselves. Quite a show they're putting on, General Wright commented, noting how the Imperial ships spread out to look more impressive, trying to scare us with size. Ambassador Gray's voice boomed through all communication channels. Primitive humans, behold the might of the Empire. Surrender now, and we will be merciful. Stone pressed a button on his command console. Guardian, execute Defense Pattern Alpha. Around Earth, thousands of pieces of what looked like space debris suddenly came alive. The Empire had dismissed them as garbage, never noticing the advanced weapons hidden within each piece. Before the Imperial ships could react, Earth bristled with weapons like a porcupine raising its quills. What is this? Gray's voice had lost some of its confidence. Your primitive weapons cannot harm. The first railgun shot cut through his transmission. A piece of metal the size of a coin, accelerated to near light speed, punched through an Imperial ship's shields like they weren't there. The massive vessel split in half, its crew never even knowing what hit them. All ships, open fire. Gray's panicked voice filled the channels. Show these primitives real power. Imperial energy weapons lit up space around Earth, beautiful beams of light that looked devastating. But humanity's quantum shields, developed through centuries of warfare, didn't even flicker under the assault. Return fire, Stone ordered calmly. Pattern Delta. Minimal force. 5,000 defense platforms fired simultaneously. Railguns, plasma cannons, and energy weapons struck the Imperial fleet from every direction. 20 ships disappeared in the first volley, their mighty shields useless against weapons they'd never encountered before. Captain Walsh's voice came through the command channel. Stealth team in position. Admiral. Permission to execute. Granted. Show them why humans invented stealth technology. In the chaos of battle, no one in the Imperial fleet noticed 5 small ships slit between their formations. Each human vessel was smaller than an Imperial shuttle, covered in materials that absorbed all scanning waves. They were invisible to both sensors and the naked eye. Walsh's team struck from point-blank range. Electromagnetic pulses knocked out ship after ship, leaving them dead in space without firing a shot. The Empire's mighty warships, never designed to handle such attacks, fell silent. This is impossible. Gray's voice shook with fear. How are you doing this? You're supposed to be primitive. Stone finally responded to the ambassador. We tried to warn you. Humanity has spent thousands of years preparing for war. While your empire grew peaceful and complacent, we kept advancing. Every conflict taught us new lessons. Every war brought new innovations. On the main screen, the remaining Imperial ships began to retreat. Of the 50 that arrived, only 15 remained operational. The entire battle had lasted less than 5 minutes. Admiral, Walsh reported, they're calling for reinforcements. Long-range communications detected. Stone nodded. Let them. They need to understand what they're dealing with. He turned to General Wright. Casualty report. 0, sir. Their weapons couldn't penetrate our shields. We didn't lose a single defense platform. In orbit, the surviving Imperial ships regrouped, their golden hulls now scared and dark. Ambassador Gray's final transmission came through, his voice completely stripped of its former arrogance. "What? What are you?" Stone's response was quiet but clear. "We are human. We perfect everything we do, including war. You didn't listen to our warning, but perhaps now you'll understand. When humans tell you to run, you run." As the Imperial ships flowed into hyperspace, Dr. Miller approached the command table. Guardian reports they're calling their entire local fleet. 500 ships. Stone smiled slightly. "Good. Now they're taking us seriously." He looked at the battle damage analysis. "But they still don't understand. We just defeated their ships using our most basic weapons. Wait until they see what we can really do." The Empire had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, but they had never faced an enemy who turned warfare into an art form. They were about to learn why humans were the only species that scared their own monsters away. The stars disappeared as 500 Imperial warships dropped out of hyperspace. Their golden hulls blocked out the sun, casting shadows over Earth's orbital defenses. This time, they didn't bother with demands or speeches. They came to fight. In Luna Command Center, Admiral Stone watched the massive fleet with the same calm expression he'd shown during their first battle. "They still don't understand," he said quietly. "More ships don't mean better tactics." "Sir," Captain Walsh reported from her stealth ship, hidden among the Imperial fleet, "they've upgraded their shields. The basic railguns won't work this time." Stone nodded. "Then it's time for Phase 2. Dr. Miller, release the nanites." Across Earth's orbital installations, countless tiny doors opened. Clouds of microscopic robots poured into space, each one smaller than a grain of dust. The Empire's sensors didn't even register them as a threat. "What are they doing?" General Wright asked, watching the Imperial fleet hold position. "Why aren't they attacking?" "They're trying to be clever," Stone replied, "waiting to see our defenses before committing." He pressed a button on his console. "Let's show them something new. Guardian, initiate gravity lance protocols." The AI's calm voice responded, calculating mass disruption patterns, target locks established. The Empire finally launched their attack. Thousands of energy beams struck Earth's defensive screen simultaneously. The quantum shields held easily, absorbing the energy and redistributing it through the defense network. "Now," Stone ordered. Hidden gravity generators activated around Earth's orbit. Humanity had discovered centuries ago that gravity could be more than just a force of nature. It could be a weapon. Focused beams of gravitational force struck 20 Imperial ships, crushing them into balls of metal smaller than cars. "Impossible." The Imperial commander's voice boomed through the communication channels. "No species has weaponized gravity fields." Stone didn't respond. He didn't need to. The nanite swarms had reached the Imperial fleet, slipping through their shields as if they weren't there. Alarms blared across enemy ships as the microscopic machines began disassembling their hulls molecule by molecule. "Full attack," the Imperial commander screamed. "Launch all fighters. Fire everything." The space around Earth lit up with the largest energy barrage in Imperial history. It was beautiful, terrifying, and completely useless. Humanity's quantum shields didn't just block attacks. They learned from them, adapting and growing stronger with each hit. "Guardian," Stone called, "show them what human eye can do." The defense platforms changed formation, creating complex geometric patterns in space. Each pattern focused and amplified their weapon's power. When they fired, their combined energy created artificial singularities, miniature black holes that swallowed Imperial ships whole. "This is a nightmare," the Imperial commander's voice shook. "What kind of demons are you?" Captain Walsh's stealth fleet struck again, emerging from nowhere to disable entire squadrons with electromagnetic pulses. The Empire's ships, for all their size and power, fell like dominoes before weapons they'd never imagined possible. "We're not demons," Stone finally responded. "We're humans. We spent thousands of years fighting ourselves, preparing for threats exactly like you." Every weapon you see was built because we had to survive our own wars. The Imperial fleet began to break formation. Ships disappeared into hyperspace, fleeing the battlefield. The nanite swarms had reduced a third of their fleet to floating clouds of metal particles. The gravity lances had crushed another third into twisted debris. "Admiral," Dr. Miller reported, "they're broadcasting on all frequencies. They're calling for help from the entire Empire." Stone looked at the tactical display. The battle was already over. Earth's defenses were untouched, while the mighty Imperial fleet lay in ruins. "Let them call," he said. "The more ships they send, the more they'll learn why we warned them to run." As the last Imperial ships fled, General Wright stepped beside Stone. "Think they've learned their lesson?" Stone watched the nanite swarms return to their housing units, their work complete. "No," he replied. "But they will. Humanity didn't become the galaxy's most advanced military power by accident. We earned it through blood and fire. And if the Empire wants to learn why, we'll teach them." In the Empire's central command on their capital world, chaos reigned. The High Council chamber, normally a place of quiet dignity, now echoed with shocked voices and frightened arguments. Holograms showed the destruction of their fleets, playing over and over as Imperial scientists tried to understand what had happened. Supreme Commander Robert, leader of the Empire's military forces, watched the footage with growing horror. "How did we not know?" he whispered. "How did we miss this?" Ambassador Gray stood before the council, his silver skin dulled with shame. "We thought they were primitive. Their civilization is barely 2,000 years old. They hadn't even spread beyond their solar system. And yet, the Emperor's voice cut through the noise. They destroyed our best ships like they were children's toys." The ancient ruler leaned forward on his crystal throne. "Show me their weapons again." The holograms changed, displaying detailed analysis of Earth's defense systems. Imperial scientists pointed out technologies that seemed impossible. Gravity weapons that ignored the laws of physics as they knew them, shields that adapted to attacks, machines smaller than cells that could take apart starships. "Look at these designs," the head scientist said, his voice trembling with a mixture of fear and admiration. Every weapon they used was refined, perfected. They didn't just develop these technologies, they mastered them completely. A junior analyst stepped forward, holding a data crystal. "My lords, we've discovered something disturbing. These humans, they have weapons they didn't even use against us." The chamber fell silent. Supreme Commander Robert turned slowly. "What do you mean?" "Their orbital platforms contain technology we can't even understand. Energy signatures that make no sense. And their lunar base." The analyst swallowed hard. "It houses something they call Project Prometheus. Our best calculations suggest it could destroy an entire solar system." Ambassador Gray sank into a chair. "They'd warned us," he said quietly. "They tried to tell us we were making a mistake. Why didn't I listen?" The Emperor raised his hand, and a new hologram appeared. Earth's history. The Council watched in stunned silence as humans fought war after war, each conflict driving incredible technological advances. They saw how every battle taught humanity new lessons, how each war pushed them to create more powerful weapons. "They call it mutually assured destruction," the head scientist explained. "The idea that if weapons become powerful enough, no one dares use them." Their entire species lived under this philosophy for centuries. They built weapons so terrible they scared themselves into peace. Supreme Commander Robert studied the battle footage again. "Look at their tactics. Every move was planned. They knew exactly how our ships would react. Their AI predicted our strategies before we made them." "Not just predicted," the analyst added. "They've run millions of combat simulations. They prepared for every possible scenario. While we spent 10,000 years enjoying peace, they spent their time preparing for war with everyone, including themselves." The Emperor stood slowly, his ancient form towering over the council. "We have ruled the galaxy through peace and prosperity. But these humans, they rule themselves through carefully balanced power. They don't need an empire to maintain order. They achieved peace by being so dangerous that no one dares disturb it. What do we do? Gray asked quietly. We do what they suggested in the first place, the Emperor replied. We run, before they decide to show us what their real weapons can do. He turned to his commander. Send peace negotiators, offer them anything they want, and pray they're feeling merciful. As the council dispersed, Supreme Commander Robert watched Earth's battle footage one final time. He saw how the humans had held back, using only enough force to make their point. They could have destroyed the entire fleet instantly, but they chose to teach a lesson instead. Remarkable, he muttered. They've mastered not just the art of war, but the art of peace through strength. He switched off the hologram. No wonder they warned us to run. 1 month after the Battle of Earth, the Luna Command Center hosted a very different kind of meeting. Instead of military commanders planning defense strategies, the room now held diplomats from both Earth and the Empire. The holotable showed trade routes instead of battle plans. Admiral Stone sat across from Ambassador Gray, who looked remarkably different from their first meeting. Gone was the arrogant stance and dismissive attitude. Now he spoke with careful respect, choosing each word with diplomatic precision. The Empire formally recognizes Earth and all human colonies as a sovereign power, Gray announced, his voice carrying none of its former condescension. We seek peaceful cooperation and mutual benefit. Stone nodded, noting how the other Imperial diplomats watched him with a mixture of fear and fascination. Earth accepts your proposal for peace. We have no interest in conquest or dominion. We simply wish to be left alone to progress at our own pace. Captain Walsh, now serving as Earth's military attaché, brought up a new hologram showing Earth's defense network. As a show of good faith, we're sharing some of our defensive technologies with the Empire. Basic shield modifications, point defense systems, and early warning networks. The Imperial scientists in the room leaned forward eagerly. One of them spoke up, but not the advanced weapons. No, General Wright answered firmly. Those stay with us. The galaxy doesn't need more planet killers. What we're sharing will help you protect your worlds from natural disasters and pirates. Nothing more. Gray nodded in understanding. The Empire has learned its lesson about the development of weapons. We spent 10,000 years believing peace came from the absence of conflict. You showed us it comes from being strong enough to deter it. Dr. Miller joined the conversation, his AI research terminals displaying data about cultural exchange programs. Guardian has analyzed the potential outcomes of our cooperation. The predictions are overwhelmingly positive. Your Empire's experience with peaceful administration combined with our defensive capabilities could create unprecedented stability. A new kind of peace, Stone added, not built on conquest or submission, but on mutual respect and strength. The Emperor's hologram appeared above the table, his ancient features set in a thoughtful expression. Humanity has taught us much in a very short time. We believed age brought wisdom, that our 10,000 years of history made us superior. We were wrong. Stone stood, addressing the Emperor directly. Age brings wisdom only if you learn from experience. Humanity learned our lessons the hard way, through countless wars and conflicts. We don't want to teach those lessons to others the same way. And so you warn them to run, the Emperor said, finally understanding. Not out of cruelty, but mercy. Exactly. Stone gestured to the star map showing Earth's sphere of influence, a tiny dot in the Empire's vast territory. We don't need to rule the galaxy. We just need enough space to grow at our own pace in our own way. The peace treaty was signed there in the Luna Command Center, where just weeks ago humanity had coordinated its defense against Imperial invasion. As the diplomats filed out, Gray lingered behind to speak with Stone. You know, the ambassador said quietly, some in the Empire wanted to continue the fight, to bring our full might against Earth. Stone smiled slightly. We know. We also know why the Emperor chose peace instead. Oh, Your scientists finally decoded the energy readings from Project Prometheus. You realize what we could do if truly threatened. Gray's color-shifting eyes flickered rapidly. Yes, the ability to destabilize a star. To think you developed such power, but never used it. That's the difference between our peoples. Ambassador, Stone replied. You built an empire because you could. We built weapons we hoped never to use. Peace through the capacity for war. As they walked out onto the lunar surface, Earth hung bright and blue in the black sky. The Imperial ships in orbit now stayed well back from the defense platforms, their golden hulls reflecting sunlight alongside humanity's silver satellites. Perhaps, Gray said thoughtfully, that's why the galaxy needed humanity. To remind us that true peace comes not from the absence of weapons, but from the wisdom to know when not to use them. Stone looked at the Earth, remembering all the wars that had led to this moment of peace. Let's hope that's a lesson no one has to learn twice.